Economic War Room, we have two very important guests. These are friends of mine. They're from Stewardship Advisory, and they're great financial planners. So I'd like to welcome Jeff Rogers and Matt Hight. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you.
Now, you are both part of our NSIC, National Security Investment Consultant Institute training programs. And Jeff, I think you came twice.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about the experience that you had being a part of the NSIC?
Yeah, it was great, Kevin. I learned a lot. It was really awesome to be around people like General Boykin and some of the top people in the national security environment, from former CIA officers and people like that, and to understand from a financial advisor's perspective the impact that national security can have on our clients investments, on the economy as a whole, really on the future of our nation.
Yeah, that was a fun time. We had some great people there. You mentioned a former CIA. That was Fred Fleitz, who went on from there to be the Chief of Staff for the National Security Council, working under Ambassador Bolton. And we've had him on the program. He's a great guy, and it's a lot. So what stands out that you learned that might help you with your clients? How about you?
Well, one of the big things was that although national security, as we think about it, through air, land, and sea, is still absolutely necessary, enhanced national security in the areas of economic, financial markets, cyber, and currency manipulation, those spaces are where that's going to have to be stepped up. And the people that are going to be responsible for that are everyday people, advisors like us, people that work in IT, bankers, other financial service professionals. They're going to be the soldiers that are on the front lines of this economic and geopolitical warfare of this era.
Do you think your clients are aware about some of these issues? Are they inherently concerned but haven't put their finger on it? How do your clients feel about when they watch the headlines?
I think a lot of clients run the spectrum from either overly fearful because they're listening to too many of the wrong sources of information. So it's almost like Chicken Little, the sky is falling. And most of our clients are not that way, but there are some. And then others almost have their head in the sand, and they're oblivious to what's going on. And there's a balance between not being fearful, but being aware and being prepared.
Yeah, you don't want to be complacent, but you don't want to let it freeze you in place either. Yeah, so Cerulli Advisors, you're probably familiar with Cerulli. They did a recent survey of financial experts. What are the top threats, external threats to wealth? And the top three they listed were cybersecurity, a potential market crisis, and international relations, like they mentioned North Korea as an example. How did what you learned at the NSIC training help you address these concerns with the clients?
Well, what it spoke to me about was that we don't have all the answers, and that there is a need out there for options for us to bring to our clients. And so through the NSIC, those kind of opportunities are being developed. And now we can bring those, or hopefully shortly, we can bring those to our clients as options. Kind of to Jeff's point, what he said, clients are aware, they hear the news clips, we get emails on these issues, and then we're forced to respond to those.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you both have been leaders at bringing biblical approaches to investing. Like, you've got a lot of Christian clients, for example, and so they say, hey, I don't want to invest against my values. And so you've been leaders at bringing that. There's all kinds of socially responsible investing, others that are worried about the climate, and so they invest in climate funds. But there really hasn't been much offered in the form of national security protection or pro-America investing. Is that right?
Yeah, there's not a lot out there. In fact, I think the approach of the financial industry is overly simplistic in its response to this. The only approach that most financial advisors don't do a lot of this actually, but the approach of people out there, I'll call them in the financial media and marketing, is buy gold and invest the rest.
Yeah.
Or buy gold and avoid investing in anything else.
Or buy just the S&P 500 and don't worry about what's in it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so neither of those are appropriate answers, obviously.
Yeah. Well, do you think your clients find value in the fact that you're looking biblically or you're looking for a pro-America or national security? Is that helping you get clients, keep clients?
Absolutely, it helps us get and keep clients, both of those. But and our clients, they love that we have the ability to help them align their investments with their values. And something that I've heard you talk about, Kevin, and it's going to be a theme of the NSIC, will be weaponizing their money or our money. And so that is going to be, once that opportunity is out there, I think both Christians, believers, and non-Christians will gravitate towards that as well, especially as it pertains to our national security, because that's something that both sides can come together on most of the time.
And you work with lots of advisors. I mean, Jeff, you've got a whole team of advisors, but you also network with advisors all across the country. Is this something new that people haven't thought of before? Is it just emerging? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the national security investment implications, I think, are new and really being brought to light through you. Thank you for your leadership in that area. As you mentioned, Kevin, the socially responsible investing, that's been around for a long time, over 100 years, a couple hundred years actually, if you go back. Biblically responsible investing and actually aligning with biblical values, that's relatively new over the past 20, 25 years, and we've been leaders in that. But one of the things that I've learned through the National Security Investment Consultants is that there's other implications. There are literal national security implications to how we invest. And our perspective as believers is that it's not our money anyway, it's God's. He's the owner and we're his stewards. And so ultimately we need to be asking the owner, how would you have me invest your money, your resources? And the NSIC is bringing new information, new resources to help us to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think our industry has been geared around the idea, well, you just invest in what you see as the best possible economic return. If that meant that you were investing in a Russian company or a Chinese company that was threatening America's security, that's not a good thing in the long run.
Absolutely.
And you want to invest in those companies in America that believe in the values that we believe in. So I think that's good. But you go beyond that, Jeff. You talk about family legacy, and you've got a book on it. And we're going to talk about that. But what about our nation's legacy? We have a national heritage of freedom and liberty and so forth. We're seeing that kind of torn down right now, and nobody's passing that on to future generations. How do we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a family legacy and a national legacy perspective, I think we need to look at our values and alignment of our values, including in how we invest money. And part of that goes to living up to a family name. What's it mean to be a part of the Freeman family or the Rogers family? But also,
or the American family.
I was just going to say that. What's it mean to be an American? I think part of what we're seeing today with the issues related to protesting the national anthem or the flag or whatever are because people haven't been taught about what it means to be an American, what it means to be proud to be an American. And because of that, we've got a
break out with Lee Greenwood right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great song, right? And but so we need to get back to those fundamentals, those basics, and a biblical worldview, and very frankly, an American worldview as well, where we're not ashamed to be Americans, which I think the left would like us to be ashamed. They want us all to be globalists and anti-American, really. But we can't do that. We need to lead strongly and lead nicely. Right? We can be diplomatic and winsome and ambassador-like. We don't have to be mean-spirited.
No.
But nevertheless, we don't have to be ashamed to be Americans.
Sure. And so do you see, in my mind, I picture politically there's everything going to the youth movement. We got to go and the young people are embracing socialism. That's just a fact. And they're turning away from a lot of the American ideals that we grew up with. Do you see those distinctions in your clients from one generation to the next generation?
We absolutely do, but I'll also say there is a remnant and I think it's always been a remnant, even going back to the nation of Israel, there's a remnant of conservative young people as well who are taking a stand. Now, granted, there's definitely the pendulum has shifted to the left among the youth of America. But as I've reflected on this recently, Kevin, I think it's almost kind of like the 1960s and 70s, where that shift occurred. But then what happened afterwards? You know, we had the moral majority and President Reagan and, you know, the USA hockey team winning, right? And we had the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. You know, over our lifetime, we've seen
Kinda
that
goes in
pendulum
cycles, doesn't it?
shift, you know, and I'm, for one, praying for a spiritual, moral, political, and economic revival to happen in our nation and our world. And I think that people are ultimately going to see the fallacy of socialism and liberalism, and there's going to be a swing back to the right. At least I hope that God will grant
Well, that I
peace.
think is the responsibility of one generation to pass to the next generation. We're going to pass money. Our generation will pass money to our kids. I think we ought to attach some strings to it. You got to learn American culture and learn how to handle this money properly. It's part of the American legacy and passing on. So that's what we're doing in the Economic War Room. I really appreciate you taking time to share with us a little bit about your experience with the NSIC and about your experience in helping people manage their money and pass not just their money, but a legacy on to future generations. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being here.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.